If you grew up anywhere near the hush of American farmland, you can probably picture a front porch that looks out over fields and fence posts, the air moving slow and warm, a glass sweating on the railing. Now imagine that glass not with soda or sweet tea, but with something quieter and steadier, a brewed leaf with a clean scent and a gentle taste that helps the body remember what calm feels like. Back in Vietnam, folks have long brewed a leaf called voi, a glossy, thick leaf with a distinctive aroma when you rub it between your fingers. Families drank it like they breathed, simple and regular. Today I want to take you from that porch to the heart of a very old habit that carries very modern benefits, to show why voi leaf tea can be a faithful companion for your stomach, your joints, your blood sugar, your skin, and even the organs that work overtime because of late nights and heavy meals. We will talk like neighbors. We will use common sense. And we will keep one principle at the center of our story, the little word that turns a good thing into a great one: moderation. I first heard about voi from Grandma Ruth, who grew up in a coastal town and never met a plant she did not try to steep. She had hands that smelled faintly of mint and laundry soap. When I complained of that tight, bloated feeling after Sunday dinner, she would press a warm mug into my hands and say, "Give it 10 minutes. Old wisdom says a warm belly leads the rest of you into balance. Voi tea, rich in gentle tannins and other natural compounds, can nudge your stomach and intestines to keep a steady rhythm, which is exactly what they need after a heavy meal. If you know the dull ache high under your ribs, the light burn that flares when you have eaten too fast or too much, the warm sip of voi can feel like smoothing a crumpled shirt. Not by magic, just by reminding your body of its own pace. Some people notice that drinking voi regularly seems to help the friendly bacteria in the gut feel more at home while keeping pushy strains from taking over, which can make days more comfortable and nights easier. But the key, Aunt Linda would say with her raised eyebrow, is enough, not more. If you brew from the woody stems, 6 to 12 grams in a pot for the day is sensible. If you have the buds, 10 grams does the job. Pour yourself 2 to 3 cups spread across your day and pay attention to how you feel. A light belly, a little extra ease, an afternoon nap that lands softer. This is how your body says thank you. Push harder than that, and your stomach will push back. Voi is a companion, not a drill sergeant. That is our first lesson. Our second belongs to my neighbor, an accountant named Mike, who keeps score of everything, even the stories he tells. One spring, he limped across the lawn to return a ladder and admitted that his big toe and then his ankle had been catching fire some nights. The stubborn stabbing burn sounded like gout, and his doctor confirmed it. The plan was straightforward medicine, food adjustments, more water. Mike asked what else might help his long game, the months and years ahead. Voi came up again, this time as a supporting player. People have used it to gently encourage the body toward lower uric acid over time, and the antioxidants tucked inside the leaves and buds can help tame the inflammation that makes those flares feel like a lit match in a joint. Mike started simmering 20 grams of fresh or dried leaves with 2 liters of water at a low burble until the pot held about 1.5 liters. He poured that into a big bottle and took a few small servings through the day. He did not feel a miracle in a weekend. He did not stop his meds or pretend food rules did not matter. But combined with leaner meals, fewer beers, less red meat and organ meats, and a habit of evening walks, the months got kinder. Call it a 3-legged stool, your decisions at the table, your movement, your hydration. Voi is not the stool. It is the steady hand that helps you lower yourself down without wobbling. If you or someone you love is watching blood sugar like a hawk, voi has another quiet gift. Inside those leaves and buds are polyphenols that may slow the work of a particular digestive enzyme called alpha-glucosidase. When that enzyme dawdles, the sugars from your food stroll rather than sprint into your bloodstream, and the after-meal spikes can look less jagged. For folks on the edge of diabetes or with family history that feels heavy, a daily cup of buds steeped like a gentle tea can be a small, soft wall in front of a big wave. The flavonoids also play defense against the grind of oxidative stress that wears on cells over time, including the beta cells in the pancreas that control insulin. But here we should pause and repeat the common sense rule that protects us. Voy can be a helper. It is not a standalone plan. Eat your fiber, choose whole grains, be honest about portions. Walk briskly for 30 minutes most days. And if you already take medication for sugar control, talk with your clinician before sliding Voy into your daily habit so that your choices cooperate rather than collide. Good care is a conversation among you, your doctor, and the plants you invite into your routine. On a different day, Cousin Maya dropped by with a lab report folded in her purse and the anxiety that comes with any number that feels too high. Her cholesterol had crept up, and she wanted to nudge it down without losing herself to panic. We talked about vegetables with real crunch, about fish with healthy fats that do not weigh you down, about nuts and seeds, and the way a drizzle of olive oil can make a salad feel like dinner. We looked at the fryer and agreed it could rest more often. I suggested she switch part of her daily water to a light brew of Voy, not sweetened, not tangy with syrups, just clean and faintly herbal. She raised a brow and asked why. Because many people find that over time, with consistent habits, Voy helps tilt the balance between the number we want lower LDL and the number we want higher HDL in a friendlier direction. And because rituals matter, if swapping a portion of your drinks for a natural brew helps you say no to a pastry tea or a sugar bomb in a bottle, you give your blood vessels a calmer day. Add a few sessions each week that push your heart, just a little cycling, swimming, fast walking, and you ask your body to use fat for fuel. Voy is not the engine, it is the oil change that helps your engine run smoother. We should not skip the skin, because the skin keeps score when life gets messy. My Uncle Joe is a mechanic with a cap that has never been clean. He had patches on his arms that flared red, itchy and hot by the end of his shift. He scoffed at creams. He would roll his sleeves back down and mutter. One afternoon, Grandma Ruth sent him home with a mason jar of dark brew and the simplest instructions. Boil a small handful of clean Voy leaves in 2 to 3 liters of water for 10 to 15 minutes. Let it cool to warm. Then rinse your skin gently. Do not scrub. Pat dry with a clean towel. Do that a few times a week. The natural cleansing quality of the leaf can help settle the surface, especially when heat and sweat and grime are driving the irritation. It took patience. He kept his shirts clean, aired his skin after work, stopped scratching. Within a few weeks, the worst of the itching eased. It was not the kind of magic you brag about. It was the kind you notice when you stop noticing you are miserable. Now we move to the parts of the body that complain quietly, the liver and the kidneys that carry our abundance and our mistakes. We live in a country where weekends can become a parade of frying pans and glasses that refill without asking. After those celebrations, you know the feeling of heaviness that sits like a paperweight under your ribs and behind your eyes. Voy tea can be part of resetting that rhythm, not by scrubbing you clean overnight, but by supporting your natural processes of flushing and balance. That kind of reset does not depend on how much Voy you can drink in a day. It depends on sleeping like you mean it, turning down the drinks that turn you down the next morning, balancing your meals, and letting a couple of small cups of Voy help your inner stream flow a bit more clearly. Some mornings, after a light breakfast, the warm cup can feel like oiling gears that squeaked since yesterday. So how do you use this leaf without letting enthusiasm push you too far? That takes us to the heart of practical wisdom. Timing matters. Do not drink Voy on a completely empty stomach, especially right after waking up, because the mild astringency and digestive nudge can feel like irritation without food to hold it. And do not swallow a cup immediately after you finish eating. Let your body run its first act of digestion, those acids and enzymes that should not be diluted. The sweet spot is 45 to 60 minutes after a meal. At that point, the tea is like a breeze through an open window. For most people, 1 to 2 cups a day is enough. If you already enjoy it and your body likes it, 2 to 3 cups of a lighter brew can be fine. Always listen to your own signals. If you feel your stomach sloshing, if your stools loosen, if you feel jittery, pull back on dose or skip a day. You can use fresh leaves or dried, and each has its charm. Dried leaves keep longer, taste rounder, and the compounds are more concentrated, so you need less. Wash them, let them drain, dry them in a clean, airy space out of direct dust. Store them in a tight jar. Buds lend a delicate scent that makes a lovely daily tea. There are seasons in life when caution is not just smart, it is necessary. If you are pregnant, if you are nursing, if you are living with a long-term condition and taking regular medications, ask your doctor before making Voy a daily houseguest. The goal is harmony. Let your care team know what you want to try so they can keep watch for overlaps or interactions. This is not medical advice tailored to your diagnosis. It is a nudge to gather the right voices before you add new steps to your routine. Let us picture a day that moves at a gentler pace with Voy woven into it. Morning breaks soft over the roof lines. You sit down with a bowl of oatmeal or a slice of whole grain toast and an egg. You take a few slow breaths and pour a warm half cup, not as a test of willpower, but as a way to greet your gut kindly. Lunch is simple vegetables you can see and a piece of fish that tastes like itself. An hour after, you top off your cup and feel the cool edge of clarity glide down your throat. Late afternoon comes with the ache behind your kneecaps or the heaviness in your lower back that says you carried the day on your legs. You decide to steep a little handful of buds, sip, and then walk around the block before dinner. The weekend arrives, and you brew a stronger pot to rinse your scalp and skin. You towel off gently and put on clean clothes, and the night comes easier because itch did not insist on speaking. If you are trying to slide away from sugary drinks, Voy is a bridge you can trust. Keep a chilled pitcher in the fridge. When the middle of the day asks for something cold and easy, pour that instead of a can or a cup that will spike your cravings and crash your mood. Over time, your tongue becomes less needy for sweetness and more interested in the actual flavor of food. If you are on a weight loss path built on truth rather than tricks, Voy can be a small, steady part of that, helping you stay hydrated, giving you a modest feeling of fullness between meals, supporting digestion, and dulling the siren song of fried foods. Walk 8 to 10,000 steps, choose lean proteins and a rainbow of greens, and go to bed in time for tomorrow to feel like a promise. Voy will not carry you there by itself. It will keep you company. Older friends who track blood pressure, pulse, weight, and blood sugar sometimes turn Voy into a ritual. They pour, sip, and jot down how their body responded to breakfast, to dinner, to a new habit. After a month or two, those notes add up to the kind of proof you can feel in your bones. Sleep steadier, skin clearer, meals less dramatic. Health rarely arrives in a blaze of glory. It is woven from small strands pulled day after day. Brewing is an art of restraint. With dried leaves, a pinch that weighs around 6 to 10 grams is enough for a 1-liter pot. Rinse quickly under clean water, wake the leaves with a swirl of hot water, then fill with water just off the boil and let it sit 10 to 15 minutes. If you cook it on the stove, keep the flame low so you avoid a harsh, bitter edge. Stop when the liquid turns a clear, amber brown. Buds need even less, 8 to 10 grams, for about 800 milliliters, will bathe your kitchen in a light and pleasant aroma. Drink it warm on chilly days. If you like it cold, let it cool and tuck it in the fridge. Then finish it by day end to keep the flavor and the natural goodness fresh. A few of you may shy away from the faintly astringent taste, thinking it nips rather than kisses. There are simple ways to soften that note. Some people float a thin slice or two of licorice root in the pot. Others add a small piece of dried apple to round out the flavor. Be thoughtful if you are watching blood sugar closely, because dried fruit can sneaky slip in more sweetness than you intended. A leaf or two of a natural sweet herb can also whisper sweetness without numbing the leaf's own character. Start with very little. The goal is to let voice speak, not to drown it out. For the scalp and the rest of your skin, the recipe is easy enough to memorize. A moderate handful of leaves, washed, 2 to 3 liters of water, 10 to 15 minutes at a quiet boil. Cool to warm. Rinse your hair and skin. Pat dry. Repeat this 2 to 3 times a week and pay attention to the change in how your shirt feels against your shoulders. Clean your towels. Wash your pillowcases. Small hygiene loops help your skin do its job without scolding it. There is one last truth we owe ourselves. Good as voy is, too much tips the boat. Excess can lead to stomach upset, loose stools, or a washed-out feeling like your body lost its center. Do not drink it when you are truly empty. Do not down a cup right after a meal. Leave some time on the clock, hear your own rhythms, and adjust. If you are pregnant or nursing or on medicines you plan to take for a long time, have a direct conversation with your clinician before you make voy a daily habit. Now let me tell you about the afternoon everything I am telling you finally made perfect sense. It was late summer, the kind where the air hangs heavy and the trees refuse to move. The family had gathered in my parents' backyard. Uncle Joe wrestled with the grill. Mike had a cooler that sloshed and clinked. There was laughter. There was the old story about the time Grandpa drove 3 hours in the wrong direction. And there was me, watching my plate and my choices, feeling the tug of old habits and the worry of numbers I do not like. I had brewed a big pitcher of voy earlier, chilled it, and poured it into a glass pitcher that caught the light. The first time I offered it around, the cousins made faces. "Where is the lemon? Where is the sugar?" they asked. I said, "Just try it." We poured small cups. I told them the story of Grandma Ruth, of Mike and his careful new routine, of Maya and her salad that finally tasted like dinner, of Uncle Joe rinsing his forearms and not hating his skin for once. I did not preach. I told them the truth of our family, the slow turn of our choices. For a moment the yard was quiet except for the sound of ice settling in cups. That is when the wave hit me. Not with drama, not with fireworks. I suddenly felt how many little decisions we make as if we are alone when we are not. We inherit wisdom quietly. We turn it into habits and rituals that are not glamorous and certainly not trending. We pass them to each other as we pass a bottle across a table. The turning point was not a grand vow. It was a refill. Mike set down his beer and asked for more of the cold tea. Aunt Linda nodded like a judge. Maya took a photo of the pitcher to remember the color. Uncle Joe laughed and said maybe he would rinse his arms that night. The rest of the evening felt different, not restrained, just more awake. The weeks after that party did not look like a fitness montage. They looked like life. Some mornings I forgot my cup and carried on. Some dinners were bigger than they needed to be. But the center held. I brewed. I sipped. I waited an hour after lunch. I walked when the sun got soft. I wrote down what my body would have told me anyway if I had been listening. Slowly, my sleep shook off its rough edges. My skin stopped looking irritated by default. I said no to sweet drinks because saying yes to something calmer had become normal. My doctor smiled at my next checkup and said, "Keep doing that," and I said, "I plan to." So if any of this feels like the kind of simple discipline your days could use, start small today. Get a few clean leaves or buds. Dry a batch and keep it in an airtight jar. Brew an amount that feels reasonable for your life. Drink it slow. Breathe while you drink. Put your hand as light as a feather over your stomach and pay attention to what your body says in that quiet minute. If you find a rhythm that belongs to you, you will understand why this unassuming leaf is beloved. And when it works for you, do what Americans have always done with good news. Share it. Show your neighbor how you brew it. Tell your sister that it helped you leave soda behind. Tell your dad that it made Sunday dinner sit a little lighter. Let those small stories move. They are how habits become culture. We end where we began, on a porch with the day slowing down. The glass in your hand is cool or warm depending on the season, but the feeling inside you is the same, a steadying of gears, a sense that your body remembers what to do when you give it room and the right companions. Voy leaf tea is not a miracle. It is better. It is a modest partner that respects your body and teaches you to respect it too. 1 or 2 cups, a few smart meals, a walk at dusk, a bedtime that keeps its promise. That is the road. It may not ask for applause, but it gives you back the days you thought you had to surrender. If a plant could be a friend, this one would be the kind that does not talk much, just shows up at the right time and stays for the long haul.